Okay, so greetings all who may be watching this. I want to preface this video by saying I am making this for my own reference going forward in the format. I want to go back and watch my drafts and see my picks, what decision trees I could have done, maybe chosen differently. And I'm also making it for a small group of friends. So for anyone that may come across this on YouTube, you know, I'm not a pro, I'm not a streamer, I'm just a dude who enjoys Limited. And I'm just going to jump into a release Swiss draft here and discuss, you know, the format and picks as I go. So So definitely something I've noticed in this format. I'm sure everyone that may be watching this again, you know, archetypes are obviously important, synergies are important, and I've heard a couple of different trains of thought. You know, you should force an archetype early. I like to stay open and kind of see which archetype is open, you know, as you move through the first pack. You know, there are key uncommons that that can really, you know, signal what's open, and more important than anything, you have to make sure you get the right pieces for whatever archetype you're in. So outside of some busted rare or something of that nature, you know, I'm going to try and stay kind of open. So we opened a pretty decent pack here. This is pretty good in the Allies deck. I don't think it's insane. It's a 4/3 flyer for 5, which is good, and it gets pumped, you know. But typically on 5, you'd rather be playing like Resolute Blade Master in this deck or something. I don't think this is like a bomb rare. Tidecaller is quite good if you're in the in some type of, you know, Awakened deck, obviously, or blue-white flyers. Chasm Guide is another good ally card. Herald is also quite good. I like red-blue quite a bit, just as a tempo kind of aggro deck, and this really enables a lot of just explosive starts. It's a 2/4 for 3, which is insane, and making all your colorless spells cost 1 less is ridiculous in the Devoid deck. There's also a complete disregard, and, you know, lesser picks are like Coral Helm Guide and Culling Drone, even Ruin Processor. I have played a lot of red-blue in this format, but I do really like the archetype, and I think Herald is good enough where that I think it's okay first picking it over a complete disregard, for example. Alright, so second pick, there's the Sentinel that we could follow up, which is a pretty solid second pick. There's also a Skyrider Elf if you're in the, you know, green-blue base deck with, you know, like Converge upside. Processor Assault is not super playable. I think it's more playable in like black-red Devoid instead of blue-red, because there's more ways to ingest in black. And I could still be black-red Devoid. The rest of this pack is kind of okay. I mean, Rush of Ice I like quite a bit. Silent Skimmer I think is underrated. But I think the pick comes down to probably Reclaimer or the Sentinel here. And given the lack of 2-drops in the format, you know, I think that I want to reserve the Sentinel here. There really just aren't that many good 2-drops in the format. This is a premium 2-drop that can play offense and defense well, and is really good in the Devoid deck. So. Alright, so we're in a good spot. This is a super late complete disregard. It kind of makes me want to take it, but we could just stay on plan and take the Nettle Drone and not commit really, you know, heavy to a second color. There's also some other mediocre cards here. I mean, this pack is not great. There's a Snapping Gnarlid, which is a great 2-drop. Oracle is good. You know, in the right deck. 3/5 is a big body on the ground. I don't like Spell Shiver at all in this format. I think that your 3-drop slot gets jammed quickly, and you really just want to be making plays that impact the board on turn 3, and holding up a, you know, a counter is not really what you want to do here. So I think I'm just going to stay on plan. I mean, complete disregard's insane, but this will be the second one I pass, so hopefully I put someone in black next to me, and I can just stay on the blue-red Devoid plan, or primarily red. So, alright, so there's a Mist Intruder, there's a Nettle Drone. Both of those are really good. I think Mist Intruder is better than I originally thought. Just turning on random, processors that can be good in tempo decks is worth it, I think. There's also a Slide Runner, which is quite a good 2-drop, but I think I would just want to stick on the Devoid plan here. Channeler's good too, but I typically like my blue-red decks to be lower to the ground. So I don't anticipate playing, Eldrazi and lots of 6 and 7 drops. So I think the pick is between Nettle Drone and Mist Intruder here. This is really tough because 2-drops again are hard to come by, and maybe that Processor Assault Wheels, which would be good. And we've already got a Nettle Drone. Now these things get insane in multiples, obviously. I think I'm going to take the Mist Intruder though. That's a really close pick, and I'm not sure if that's exactly right. There's the Whiptail, which I don't like that much. There's a couple of, well, there's a good white card. We saw another Griffin in the last pack. This is actually quite a good common, in my opinion. There's also a Shadow Glider. White seems pretty open. I'm not sure if blue is, so we could go like, the problem is red-white colorless is not really a thing. But that being said, the blue cards and the red cards in this pack are non-existent. So, given that, I think I could just go ahead and slide into white, because this is a pretty big sign that it's open, having both of these flyers here, in addition to the Griffin we just passed in the last pack. And I think having the 3rd point of toughness is big against cards like Shadow Glider, and there's just a lot of 2x flyers in the format. So Merc Strider is another one of those ingesters I was kind of talking, or processors I was talking about. Like it's fine as a 3/2 for 4. I mean, it's not great obviously, but being able to bounce something is a big tempo, blowout, especially when you've got cards like Herald in your deck. But see, Mist Intruder just turns that on. This is a pretty easy pick for me. Again, this is not the deck that I really want Stonewalker or Stonewaker in, and I don't know how much I like the card anyway. You definitely don't want to be paying the landfall cost on turn 3 because it's anti-tempo essentially for yourself. It's just not where you want to be, I don't think. It's a late healer, but I'm used to seeing those pretty late. There's a Wavewing Elemental, which is not like outstanding, but it's reasonable. Devastator, it's one of my favorite Eldrazi at common, because Trample is so important in this format. There's also a Looming Spires, which I don't hate. It's good with flyers if I get them, or just pumping a dude. First strike is obviously big and limited, so I feel like I'm going to be able to get Wavewing Elementals whenever I want, but I'm still going to take it here. I'd rather have a card instead of just a land. Oh, that's a nice late pick. There's also a Merc Strider. I like Vestige quite a bit. 4-but's pretty big in the format, and again, Trample is important with all the Scions running around and X1 creatures. This is a tough pick because Merc Strider is quite good if I get more, Mist Intruders or Touch of the Void to, just random ways to turn this on. Bouncing stuff is a big deal. So, but I could just diversify and not go too all in on processors, because the 3/4 is just going to be better, in that case. So, there's not much here. I could take a Rowan Processor again. I don't love 7 drops in this deck. There's also a Spell Shovel I could take for the board, and just other pretty much borderline playables or non-playables. So, this is colorless, so it gets a little bit better in a deck with Herald, so I think I'll take it for the sideboard. Rush of Ice came back. That is nice. I like Skyline Cascade quite a bit, but in a deck like this, I just want to keep them off their plan, and be able to beat in with evasive creatures or undercosted creatures with stuff like Herald out. So Rush of Ice is definitely welcome. Scour is okay for the sideboard. I feel like Giant Mantis should still be here. I will cut that. Same with Plummet. And let's take them. The lands. Alright, so this is a reasonable start. I'm not sure if the Nettle Drone was the right pick. I should have maybe tried to cut red a little bit harder, but I think Mist Intruder is pretty good in this deck. Being able to play it potentially for 1 with the Herald out, and the random ingesting can matter in this archetype, just because you do have things like Strider, and you've got the 4-mana Tapper. you know, processor assault. There's, you know, different ways you can kind of turn it on. This pack is not great. We could take a Prairie Stream, which I don't hate. I like Dampening Pulse quite a bit. I think that's the pick for us in this pack. If we weren't going to take the Prairie Stream, which we may. Let's find out how much that is worth. It is worth 3.5 tickets. I don't know. It could be worth that. Because I'm going to want these lands anyway at some point. Dampening Pulse is quite good in any blue deck, really. It just makes Combat Math a lot tougher. There's nothing else here for us, though. Sheer Drop's a good card. Angel's a good card in the life gain deck. The rest of these are pretty replaceable. So the real question is, do we want Dampening Pulse or just take the money? And also potentially, you know, let us splash, since this is a blue dual land. As much as I like Dampening Pulse, I think I am just going to take the value here. I normally don't do that, but I think given that we're in blue, it means we could splash something like, well, holy crap, that's insane. There's also a touch, gosh. But given that we could also splash something like you know, some other, you know, good white removal spell or something, that makes me lean towards taking the Prairie Stream there. This is tough because I like a lot of cards here. Obviously, I like Dampening Pulse. Benthic Infiltrator is not at its best in this deck, but it's still a devoid creature. It's unblockable damage, and it does fuel processors. But I think I want to be more proactive in this particular archetype. So to me, the pick is between Merc Strider and Touch, and Touch is just premium removal. As much as I like all three of these cards, you know, these don't impact the board immediately. This does in an indirect sense, you know, and it's really good against Scion tokens and stuff. But I think Touch is still just the pick here. Incubator Drone is okay. I'm not seeing any of the good blue commons. I'm not seeing the Sky Spawners, which is unfortunate. It's really what you want in this deck. And blue just may not be that open, but Incubator Drone is still okay. You know, it lets you maximize turns better with the tokens, and it's just 2 bodies for 4 mana. It's totally reasonable. There's also an Outnumber and a Stone Fury. I think Outnumber may be the pick here. This is premium removal for red as well. I like Stone Fury quite a bit, but in a deck like this where we are typically going wide with stuff like Incubator Drone, you know, and a lot of cheap creatures and a lot of creatures in general, Outnumber is just going to be better. I think these are all kind of close, but Outnumber again is just good red removal. I'll definitely take it here. I like Retreat and like even just an evasive deck. It's obviously really good in just a landfall deck, but if you're doing like blue-red, I had a deck one time, it was blue-red, and it was mostly flyers, with a couple of good 2 and 3 landfall, 2 and 3 drop landfall creatures, and that was really good in that, but this is not the deck for it. There's really nothing else here for us, though. I mean, I like the Recruit a fair amount. It's an evasive, you know, 4/4, which is big in the format, and that could just be the pick here, because nothing else is really, Anticipate's not something I'm really interested in playing in a deck like this. I just want to curve out. And this is another dude. I think this is fine. It's not exciting, but the rest of the pack is just not what we're interested in. Yeah, this is another unexciting pack. I mean, there's a Demon's Grasp, which is okay in this format. It kills a lot of stuff, but it is at sorcery speed. There's also a Tightening Coils, which this is not really the deck for it, but sometimes it does just buy you time, even though we're kind of a ground pounder deck, which I think is okay. There's also a Looming Spires we could take, which I don't hate. It helps punch through damage, but I think I'm going to take the Tightening Coils. There's another pack. There's an Ondu Rising. This is quite good. The rest of this pack is pretty bad. I mean, all of these cards are just borderline playables at that. I mean, I like Invoker quite a bit. I'm going to take a Dispel for the sideboard here, though. There's nothing else here for us. You know, Ondu Champion's not really, you know, really what we're looking for. Okay, we'll pick up the Vestige. Just a late Gideon's Reproach. It's really good removal in white. There's also Focus, which is a pretty good combat trick. The rest of the pack's pretty unexciting. I wouldn't mind to pick up a Boiling Earth, the sideboard at some point, but Vestige is just a solid 4-drop, so we'll go ahead and take it. Another Rush of Ice isn't the worst. I like to have, you know, 2 to 3 of these kind of effects, whether it's this or Clutch. I think in some decks, Rush is actually better than Clutch, because you're removing the blocker for two rounds of combat instead of just one with Clutch, which can make a difference in you winning the game sometimes. There's also a Silent Skimmer still in the pack, Territorial Baloth, and a Stalker's okay. So, but I'm going to just take Rush here. I think it's fine. Not much here for us. Again, we're seeing some late blue or white flyers. That white feels pretty open, but blue has not felt super open, so I don't think that like blue-white flyers was, you know, maybe what I should have been going for, but my blue could have supported, you know, all the white flyers, so it's possible that I just missed the signal here, but red's been quite open as well, so I think the red cards I have are all pretty premium. There's nothing here I really care about, so I'm just going to cut the white card. The Benthic Infiltrator Wheel, that is crazy. That's a snap pickup. I mean, it's not insane in our deck, but it's good. Again, we're seeing another super late Shadow Glider, which those are just, they're fine. I mean, 2/2 flyer for 3 is pretty standard in any format. Once again, we got the Boiling Earth we wanted. There's a lot of green. This is actually a pretty solid landfall creature, but obviously we're not in that deck. I will take the Invoker, I think, for the sideboard. Alright, we got a Looming Spires back. I'm okay with that. We're kind of short on playables, which is not good, obviously. So hopefully this last pack is good for us. So I've been stuck in this archetype for quite a few drafts. I don't know what it is. It just seems to be what's open a lot of the time. I do like blue-red quite a bit in this format, but I kind of want to branch out. I mean, I've done a couple of the black-white healing decks, life gain decks rather. I've tried black-green. I mean, I do think this is a strong archetype, but you know, I'd kind of like to get put into something different. Like I said, I feel like white was open this draft, but I don't. Drowner of Hope is an excellent card. There's also a Ruination Guide that is unfortunate, and a Touch. Wow, this pack is just stacked for us. I really do like Drowner quite a bit. We do not have any other Scion producers, which is unfortunate. So, given that, we also, I mean, there's 4 good, and a Rolling Thunder. Holy shit balls! Wow, this pack is incredible. There's also a Stone Fury. I mean, this is insane. I don't know if Drowner is the pick here because we don't have tons of Scions. It is still a 5/5 for 6, and unless you tap some dudes. Ruination Guide is okay, but not like insane in our deck. It's still solid if we pick up any, you know, colorless cards later. Their Touch is obviously good, but I don't think that's the pick here. I think it's either Rolling Thunder or Drowner of Hope. And I like Rolling Thunder quite a bit. I think I just want to go with the dude here. This pack is so bananas good. It's ridiculous. There's an Incubator Drone. There's also a Pilgrim's Eye. There's a Slide Runner, which I don't think we really are that deck at this point. You know, we're kind of gumming up the ground and beating through with our tempo. We're not really looking to keep attacking with the 3/2. Even though this is obviously a premium 2-drop, I think that you know, a card like Incubator Drone like furthers our game plan, or even Pilgrim's Eye. I think Incubator Drone is probably the pick here, though. Pilgrim's Eye is good if you want to splash, and it's reasonable with Herald, but it's still just a 1/1 for 3, even though it flies and gets you a land. I'd rather have Drone, which works better with Drowner. It works well with the rest of our deck, because it is colorless, just like Pilgrim's Eye. Okay, there is nothing here for us that is most unfortunate. There is an Oracle of Dust, which I may take. It's colorless. 3/5 is really big in this format. It's a good blocker. You know, I've got a couple of ingesters or things that exile, so I could get to use this, you know, some percent of the time. There's just nothing else here for us. I mean, the green cards are awful. You know, the red cards are subpar, so I think this is fine. Just snapping off the Oracle here, and we're light on 5s anyway. There's a clutch. That's probably what we're gonna take here. I like Deathless Behemoth quite a bit. It would be better if I had more tokens, because then you could just keep recurring this thing, and it's a huge threat. But clutch is really solid. It's kind of what we want in a deck like this. Keep them off their plan. You know, get dudes out of it. I mean, it's just pretty solid all around. So I think, and that gives us 3 of these effects, and I can cut one if I need or whatever. But I don't think I really want another 6-drop. Both of my 6-drops are pretty reasonable right now, and I'm gonna play 18 lands. So, alright. So now we have. I do think this one is probably better than the 2-drop as far as, you know, 3-drops are concerned. I like Vestige quite a bit, obviously, but in a deck like this, like the 4/4 is just, it is pretty important as far as size is concerned relative to the rest of the format. So, this is pretty tough, actually. I may just take Vestige, though, because the colorless thing goes better with the deck with Nettle Drones and Herald. And I do like Trample quite a bit. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to take. Okay, I may take Horribly Awry here. We don't have a ton of 2-drops, and you typically don't want to cast Tightening Coils on 2 anyway. Salvage Drone I don't think is playable, even in an ingest deck. It's just subpar. It's a 1/1, even though it cycles when it dies. It's just, it's very, very mediocre. Again, we're seeing more, man, just tons of white flyers. But that ship has sailed. I think this is fine. Another Merc Strider, I think that's okay. We have a couple of ways now to exile cards. I think that's fine. Another Merc Strider I don't think is what we want. Call the Scions is a reasonable green, common. Smite the Monstrous Man White was way open. Not that I feel like I got cut on any of the other colors, like blue maybe, but the problem is the red I've got just does not play well with the white. So I'm not sure. I don't think it was like correct for me, so to speak. Now I could take Smite since I've got the fixing. But I'll just take another card I'm pretty sure I'll play. Stone Fury is fine here. Again, more of the white flyers, man. It's insane. And again, holy shit. I don't know. It's hard for me to say. Maybe I should have just been white-blue. Like, I wouldn't get in a ton of the other great blue cards, but, like, I mean, I've got 4 flyers right now just in white. It's, yeah, that's hard to say, honestly. I feel like my red's really good, though, so I really don't know what the correct pick was there. We've got a couple of cuts we need to make. I think it'll be 1 Merc Strider. That'll be one of the cuts, and Outnumber is good, but not insane in our deck. We don't have, like, the premium token makers, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, just from random picks, we picked up 4 white flyers. That's unfortunate. I think we do want to play the Looming Spires. So we're going to cut a Merc Strider. We may cut 2 Merc Striders. Like, I like the Vestiges a little bit more. They're just a little bit bigger. The reason why I didn't take, like, who's that? The colorless dude that makes your colorless plus Ruination Guide. I didn't take that because I didn't have enough token makers, and I think it shines at its most when you've got things like sky spawners in your deck, or more incubator drones, where your scions are 2/1s, where your sky spawners are 3/1s. In this deck, I don't think it's like insane. You know, we don't have tons of evasion, and I mean, making this a 4/4 is not irrelevant, but I just don't think it was at its best in this deck. Drowner may not be the best either, but you do get at least 2 taps out of it, which is big because it's a big body already. So I think that's worth it. And the other pick was a Rolling Thunder, which is good in most decks anyway, and another Touch of the Void. I think Drowners is probably marginally, well, it's definitely better than Touch, I think, just because you get a body and you can tap down 2 things. The question is Rolling Thunder better than Drowner? And I'm not sure, honestly. Rolling Thunder is obviously, you know, a premium uncommon, but it's also not efficient. It's not mana efficient at all. And depending on what decks you're up against, it can be more of a liability, because you've got to have a ton of mana in play to really take out stuff that you're interested in. But it can go to the face, which is nice. So I think that was a close pick. If I were doing this draft over again, I think I would have been in like some kind of White Flyers deck. I think that was probably what I should have gone with. I passed a sheer drop. I could have had tons and tons of Shadow Gliders and Courier Griffins. So it may have been correct to, you know, stick on one of these colors with just white and play, you know, probably blue, because I've got the tempo plays with Rush and Clutch. But you know, it's a done deal. So, but what I do like is that I have good removal in this deck. I've got an Outnumber, I have Touch, I have Stone Fury, but I also have good tempo plays, and I've got good creatures as well. So the question is, what am I cutting? And I have one more cut. It could be Tightening Coils. I kind of like what everything else brings to the table here. Tightening Coils is okay, but I don't have a ton of flyers that I'm really maximizing its value with. So I think that's probably the cut. I actually like the 2 Merc Striders because I have Horribly Awry, I've got the Mist Intruder, I have Infiltrator, so I think it's fine. I've got a couple of processors here that I can take advantage of my random exiling effects. It's not going to be consistent, but I'm also not playing so many processors that you know, that depend on it, you know. So, and the Merc Striders are really good. And this is not an ideal curve, but you know, you really want to be playing something like, it's really going to end up being something like this. Heavy on 4s, which is not ideal. I realize that. Normally you get a lot more 3-drops in the set, but clearly I was not the only blue-red drafter at this table, and I missed out on, you know, I mean, I did see a Touch that I passed. There was a Nettle Drone, but I took, you know, cards over it that I think are probably more powerful. The argument for Mist Intruder over the Nettle Drone may have been incorrect, but I like the evasion, and I like that this turns on random things like Merc Strider and Oracle, so I think it's fine. Let's sort by color and see what we've got. I think we are going to play the Looming Spires. I think that's okay. There's no point playing the Prairie Stream. And I don't want to play Scour. It's a fine sideboard card. I actually like my sideboard options. I've got a Boiling Earth, which is good. Valakut Invoker for like long games. Scour for, you know, bombs that I can't deal with. Tightening Coils, you know, again, Spell Shrivel, I can put that in and grind to your matchup. Same with Dispel. Like, white decks have a lot of instant speed sorcery, or instant speed removal, or tricks that could be worth bringing in against. So, anyway, so what we're going to do here is we're going to play 18 lands for sure, and I think it's going to be 8-9. Because we've got this as a mountain, and that'll give us 9 of each source. And I think that's right, because even though we've got more blue cards, we've got 2 double red cards. And they're late, but I definitely do want to be able to play them on time. So let's add some basics, and that's exactly what it tells us. I think that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I think this deck is reasonable. I should be able to 2-1 with it. I don't think it's insane, but like I said, I think the draft could have gone better. you know, just going back and maybe getting into white, but that's the way it goes sometimes. This is good. We're getting into round 1 immediately.